The mining station floated like a ghost in the endless void, its corroded metal hull groaning under the weight of time. It was one of thousands scattered across the galaxy, abandoned relics of humanity's relentless expansion into space. Cale Armitage moved through the dimly lit corridors with practiced ease, his boots clanging softly against the grated floor. A scavenger by trade and necessity, he had spent years drifting from one derelict site to another, picking over the scraps left behind by more ambitious civilizations. Cale wasn't proud of it, but survival didn't care about pride. He worked alone, always alone, trusting no one, not even himself most days. His reputation preceded him. Whispers of the ghost traveled fast among those who frequented these forgotten corners of the galaxy. Some said he was cursed. Others believed he had sold his soul for luck. They weren't entirely wrong. Luck, or maybe fate, had kept him alive this long, though Cale preferred not to dwell on such things. Today, however, something felt different. He had docked at an ancient wreck earlier that morning, a jagged hulk of twisted metal adrift near the edge of a dying star. Its origin was unclear, no markings, no records, but Cale didn't need answers to see value. Inside, he found fragments of alien technology, strange alloys that glowed faintly despite centuries of neglect. As he pried loose a particularly stubborn piece, the hair on the back of his neck stood up. Someone, or something, was watching him. Cale froze, his gloved hands hovering over the artifact. "Who's there?" he called out, his voice echoing unnaturally in the cramped compartment. Silence answered him, broken only by the distant hum of the star's radiation outside. Shaking off the unease, he muttered under his breath, "Paranoia's gonna get you killed faster than anything else out here." But then came the sound again, a soft footfall behind him. This time, there was no mistaking it. Before Cale could turn, a voice cut through the air, calm yet commanding. "I've been looking all over the galaxy for you, human." His heart skipped a beat. Slowly, he straightened and pivoted, his hand instinctively reaching for the plasma cutter strapped to his belt. What he saw made his grip falter. Standing in the doorway was a figure unlike any he'd encountered before. She was tall, easily 7 feet, her lithe frame encased in shimmering armor etched with glowing blue runes. Her skin was pale green, smooth and scaled like polished jade. And her eyes, golden, slit-pupiled, locked onto him with an intensity that made his chest tighten. A pair of curved blades hung at her hips, their edges gleaming dangerously even in the low light. For a moment, neither spoke. Cale's mind raced. Alien species were common enough in the galaxy, but this woman, warrior, assassin, whatever she was, didn't belong to any race he recognized, and she had just addressed him directly, as if she knew him. "What do you want?" he finally managed, his tone sharper than he intended. She tilted her head slightly, studying him as though deciphering a puzzle. "You," she said simply. "Your help." Cale laughed nervously, backing away until his spine hit the cold wall. "Lady, I don't know what you're talking about. You've got the wrong guy." Her expression didn't change, but her words carried a weight that silenced him. "No, I don't. You are marked, human. Whether you understand it or not, your presence matters far beyond this wreck. Far beyond *U*. Marked." The word sent a chill down his spine. He glanced at his arm, where a faint scar ran along the flesh, a remnant of an injury he couldn't remember receiving. Was she talking about that? How could she possibly know? Before he could press further, she stepped forward, closing the distance between them in 2 strides. Up close, her sheer presence was overwhelming. "Time is short," she continued. "Come with me, or everything burns." Cale wanted to argue, to demand explanations, but deep down, he sensed the truth in her words. Whatever storm she carried with her, it wasn't going to pass him by. And so, reluctantly, he nodded. The alien warrior woman introduced herself as Sci-Fi, a name that rolled off her tongue like thunder. She didn't waste time with pleasantries, striding confidently toward the docking bay where her ship awaited. Kale followed reluctantly, his mind racing with questions, but his instincts screaming caution. He had survived this long by trusting no one, yet something about Syra, her unwavering certainty, her piercing gaze, made resistance feel futile. Her vessel was unlike anything Cal had ever seen. Sleek and angular, it shimmered faintly under the station's dim lights, its surface alive with faint pulses of energy. The design wasn't just advanced, it seemed almost organic, as if the ship itself were breathing. Syra gestured for him to board, her tone clipped but not unkind. "Move quickly," she said. "We're exposed here." Inside, the interior matched the exterior, alien, elegant, and intimidating. Panels glowed softly along curved walls, displaying symbols and patterns Cal couldn't decipher. Syra moved with purpose, taking her place at the helm while Cal lingered awkwardly near the doorway. For all his experience navigating dangerous situations, he felt utterly out of his depth now. "Start talking," Cal demanded finally, crossing his arms. "Why me? What's so special about some human scavenger?" Syra paused, her golden eyes flicking toward him. "You are more than you appear," she said cryptically. Then, after a moment's hesitation, she added, "An ancient artifact has been stolen, an object capable of reshaping reality itself. It is called the Eclipse Core. Those who possess it seek to wield its power as a weapon. If they succeed, countless lives will be lost." Cale frowned, trying to process what she was saying. "And I'm supposed to believe I'm tied to this thing? How?" Without answering directly, Syra reached into a compartment and retrieved a small device, which she activated with a touch. A hologram sprang to life between them, showing images of humans interacting with strange machinery. One scene depicted a group of scientists examining a glowing orb, the Eclipse Core, and another showed a man being marked with a symbol eerily similar to the scar on Cal's arm. "These records are from millennia ago," Syra explained. "Your kind was deemed compatible with the core's energy. Compatible, but volatile. They believed someone would emerge, one human who could either control the core or destroy it entirely." Cale stared at the hologram, disbelief warring with unease. "That's insane. You're telling me I'm part of some cosmic prophecy?" "Come on." Syra's expression remained impassive. "Believe what you wish. But know this. Others are aware of your connection. They will come for you, and they will not hesitate to kill." As if on cue, alarms blared throughout the mining station. Red warning lights flashed outside the ship's windows, illuminating clouds of debris swirling past. Syra cursed under her breath, her hands flying over the controls. "They found us." Cale peered out the viewport, spotting several ships emerging from the darkness. Their designs were jagged and menacing, bristling with weapons. Bounty hunters, or worse. "Who are they?" he asked, panic creeping into his voice. "Enemies of balance," Syra replied grimly. "Hold on." With a surge of acceleration, her ship tore away from the station, narrowly avoiding a volley of laser fire. Cale stumbled backward, gripping a nearby console for support. Outside, the enemy vessels gave chase, weaving through asteroids and firing relentlessly. Syra maneuvered with precision, her movements fluid and calculated. Every twist and turn left Cal dizzy, but he couldn't deny the thrill coursing through him. This wasn't just survival, it was exhilaration. When one pursuer closed in dangerously close, Cal spotted an opportunity. Grabbing a loose tool from the floor, he hurled it at a panel near the rear hatch, triggering an emergency release. The burst of air expelled debris into space, catching the pursuing ship off guard and sending it spiraling into an asteroid. Syra glanced back at him, surprise flickering across her face. "Not bad," she admitted grudgingly. For the first time since meeting her, Cale allowed himself a smirk. Maybe this alliance wouldn't be so bad after all. The chase through the asteroid field left both Cale and Syra on edge, but it also forged a fragile bond between them. As her ship slipped into the safety of a shadowy nebula, Syra finally allowed herself a moment to breathe. Her fingers danced over the controls, rerouting power to repair minor damage from the skirmish. Kale, still gripping the console for balance, couldn't help but marvel at her composure. She was unlike anyone he'd ever met, calm under pressure, fiercely intelligent, and utterly enigmatic. "Where are we going now?" Kale asked, breaking the silence. His voice carried a mix of curiosity and frustration. He had followed her this far, but answers remained frustratingly out of reach. Syra glanced at him briefly before turning her attention back to the navigation panel. "To find more pieces of the puzzle," she replied. "There's an abandoned facility ahead, a relic of the precursor race. If my intel is correct, it holds information about the Eclipse core and its connection to humans." Kale frowned. "The precursors? Aren't they just myths? Stories told by spacers around campfires?" "They were real," Syra said firmly, "and their knowledge shaped much of what exists today, including your kind's role in all this." Her words sent a shiver down Cal's spine. Despite his skepticism, part of him wanted to believe there was truth in what she said. But believing meant accepting responsibility and danger he wasn't sure he was ready for. Hours later, they arrived at their destination, a massive structure floating silently in the void. Its design was alien yet strangely familiar, as if echoing something buried deep within Cal's subconscious. The facility loomed like a tomb, its darkened windows reflecting the faint glow of distant stars. Syra guided her ship into a docking bay, and together they stepped out into the eerie stillness. Inside, the air was cold and stale, heavy with the weight of centuries. Dust covered every surface, and strange symbols adorned the walls, glowing faintly as though alive. Syra moved with purpose, her armor casting long shadows in the dim light. Kale followed cautiously, his plasma cutter drawn despite knowing it wouldn't do much against whatever might lurk here. They soon discovered a central chamber filled with ancient technology. Holographic projectors hummed to life as Syra activated them, revealing recordings of the precursors' experiments. One image showed humans connected to machines, their bodies pulsing with energy. Another depicted a map of the galaxy overlaid with lines converging on Earth, an ominous reminder of humanity's origins. "These records confirm what I feared," Syra murmured, her tone grim. "Humans were chosen not by chance, but by design. The mark you bear, it's proof that you're compatible with the core's energy. That makes you invaluable and dangerous." Kale stared at the holograms, anger bubbling beneath his skin. "You knew this whole time and didn't tell me. You dragged me into this without even giving me a choice. I kept it from you to protect you." Syra shot back, her voice rising. "Do you think I wanted to involve you in something so perilous? But destiny doesn't care about convenience, human. Neither do I." Before Cal could respond, the ground trembled violently. Alarms blared, lights flashing red as mechanical guardians awakened from dormancy. Towering constructs made of metal and crystal emerged from hidden alcoves, their eyes glowing ominously. "Great," Kale muttered, raising his weapon. More surprises. Syra drew her blades, her expression fierce. "Stay close. We're not dying here." Together, they fought their way through the relentless machines, dodging attacks and striking strategically. When one guardian cornered Kale, Syra intervened, slicing through its limbs with precision. In return, Kale used his scavenger skills to disable another by targeting its weak points. Their teamwork turned the tide, allowing them to escape just as the facility began collapsing. As they fled back to the ship, Kale couldn't shake the feeling that their journey was only beginning, and that trust would be harder to earn than survival. The next stop on their perilous journey was a trade hub known as Nexus 7, a sprawling space station teeming with life, commerce, and crime. It was a chaotic melting pot of species and cultures, where deals were struck in shadowy corners and danger lurked around every corridor. For Kale, it felt like stepping into a hornet's nest, But Silra had no choice. They needed intelligence on the rogue faction holding the Eclipse core, and Nexus 7 was the best place to find it. "We need to blend in," Silra said as they approached the docking bay. Her armor retracted slightly, shifting into something less conspicuous but still intimidating. She handed Kel a set of restraints. "Put these on." Kel raised an eyebrow. "You're joking, right?" "No," she replied sharply. "If we're seen together openly, questions will arise. You'll pose as my prisoner, play it along, or stay behind." Reluctantly, Kel complied, letting her cuff his hands behind his back. The cold metal bit into his wrists, serving as a reminder of how precarious their situation was. As they disembarked, Silra adopted the persona of a ruthless mercenary captain, her demeanor colder and more domineering than ever. Anyone who crossed her path quickly looked away, unwilling to meet her piercing gaze. Nexus 7 buzzed with activity. Vendors shouting prices, mercenaries exchanging credits, and diplomats whispering conspiracies. Silra led Kel through the crowded streets, her sharp eyes scanning for potential leads. They eventually found themselves in a dimly lit cantina, where shady characters gathered to broker illicit deals. The air smelled of smoke and spilled drinks, and the hum of conversation drowned out the faint strains of alien music. Silra approached a table occupied by a hulking reptilian trader named Vraxk. His scales shimmered under the neon lights, and his forked tongue flicked as he appraised them. "What do you want?" he growled, his voice low and gravelly. "I'm looking for information," Silra said coolly. "A group operating under the banner of Draven Silos. Heard of him?" Vraxk's slit-pupilled eyes narrowed. "That name carries weight. Dangerous territory. Why should I help you?" Before Silra could respond, another figure stepped forward, a human woman clad in sleek black armor. Her presence sent a chill down Kel's spine. "Because we have what you need," she said smoothly, addressing Silra directly. Turning to Kel, her lips curled into a knowing smile. "And you must be the infamous scavenger. Funny running into you here." Kel's blood ran cold. How did she know him? The woman introduced herself as Agent Lyra, a representative of the Syndicate, the very organization hunting them. She offered a deal: betray Silra, and Earth would be spared from destruction. Kel hesitated, torn between loyalty and fear. Before he could answer, Silra intervened, cutting off negotiations with a curt refusal. As they left the cantina, tension simmered between them. "Who was that?" Kel demanded. "How does she know about me? About Earth?" Silra sighed, her stoic facade cracking slightly. "I didn't tell you everything because I wanted to keep you safe. But now," she paused, her golden eyes locking onto his, "there's a reason the Syndicate is targeting humans. They see your kind as expendable pawns. That's why I broke away from my order, to stop them." Her admission hit Kel hard. He realized then that Silra wasn't just a warrior. She was a rebel fighting against forces far greater than either of them. Their fragile alliance deepened into something stronger, mutual trust forged in fire. But their respite was short-lived. Later that night, while reviewing intel in their temporary quarters, they were ambushed by Syndicate agents. Blaster fire erupted, forcing them to flee through narrow maintenance tunnels. Silra fought valiantly, her blades flashing like lightning, but even she couldn't hold off so many enemies alone. Cornered at last, Kel made a desperate move, triggering a gas leak that sent their attackers scrambling for cover. Together, they escaped aboard her ship, narrowly avoiding capture. As they jumped into hyperspace, Kel glanced at Silra, realizing one thing clearly: betrayal wasn't just a possibility, it was inevitable. And when it came, they'd have to face it together. The aftermath of their narrow escape from Nexus 7 left both Kel and Silra shaken but resolute. As her ship hurtled through the endless expanse of space, Silra finally revealed their next destination, a sacred planet known as Valora Prime. It was a place shrouded in myth and reverence, said to be the birthplace of the Valkyrian Order itself. According to legend, the planet held relics capable of unlocking hidden truths, and perhaps even guiding them toward understanding Cal's mysterious connection to the Eclipse core. Cal sat slumped in the co-pilot's seat, his wrists still sore from the restraints he'd worn during their undercover mission. He stared out at the swirling stars, his mind heavy with doubt. "You really think this is gonna work?" he asked, breaking the silence. "Some ancient ruins holding all the answers. Feels like we're chasing ghosts." Syra glanced at him, her expression unreadable. "Not ghosts," she said quietly. "Echoes of those who came before us. If the prophecies are true, and I believe they are, Valora will show you what you need to see." Her certainty unnerved him. For someone so grounded in combat and strategy, Syra seemed almost reverent when speaking of these legends. Cal wasn't sure whether to admire her faith or pity it. Still, he had no better plan, so he nodded reluctantly. "Fine. Let's hope your echoes have something useful to say." Valora Prime loomed ahead as they approached, its surface bathed in an ethereal glow. The planet was breathtakingly beautiful, with vast crystalline forests stretching across its continents and rivers that shimmered like liquid silver under twin suns. But beauty often masked danger, and Valora was no exception. Its atmosphere interfered with technology, forcing them to land manually in a clearing surrounded by towering spires of translucent stone. As they ventured deeper into the alien landscape, the air grew thick with energy, making Cal's skin tingle. Strange symbols etched into the ground pulsed faintly, responding to their presence. Syra led the way, her steps deliberate and measured, as if navigating a path only she could sense. Cal followed, clutching his plasma cutter tightly, half expecting some unseen predator to leap out at any moment. They soon reached a massive temple-like structure carved directly into the base of a mountain. Its entrance was guarded by statues of Valkyrian warriors, their faces stern and unyielding. Syra hesitated for a moment before stepping inside, bowing her head slightly as though paying respects to long-dead ancestors. Inside, the trials began. The first challenge forced Cal to confront visions of his past, memories he had buried deep within himself. He saw flashes of earth burning, of loved ones lost, of choices made in desperation. Each memory felt raw and vivid, as though reliving them all over again. When he stumbled back into reality, sweat dripping down his face, Syra steadied him with a firm hand. "Pain shapes us," she said simply, "but it doesn't define us." Next came Syra's trial, a test of her loyalty to the Valkyrian creed. She faced holographic apparitions of her former comrades, accusing her of betrayal and questioning her motives. Her jaw clenched as she listened, but she stood firm. "I serve the greater good," she declared, "not blind obedience." Finally, they reached the heart of the temple, where a pedestal holding a glowing artifact awaited. As Cal touched it, the room erupted in light, revealing fragments of knowledge about the Eclipse core and his role in wielding it. He learned that the core wasn't just a weapon. It was a catalyst for unity, meant to bridge divides between species and heal the galaxy's fractures. But it required sacrifice, a willingness to bear unimaginable burdens. When they emerged from the temple hours later, both were changed. Cal carried new resolve, while Syra bore the weight of her choices. Together, they prepared for the final leg of their journey, knowing full well that the hardest battles lay ahead. Yet amidst the uncertainty, one truth remained clear. Whatever fate awaited them, they would face it side by side. The final stretch of their journey brought Cal and Syra to the edge of a blackened sector of space, a region shrouded in fear and mystery. At its center loomed the warship Eclipse Breaker *, a monolithic vessel bristling with weapons and dominated by an ominous energy field that pulsed like a heartbeat. This was the stronghold of Draven Silos, the rogue faction leader who had stolen the Eclipse core and planned to use it to reshape reality itself. Cal stared at the massive ship through the viewport, his stomach twisting into knots. "This is insane," he muttered under his breath. "We're walking straight into a death trap." Syra stood beside him, her golden eyes reflecting the eerie glow of the energy field. "It's the only way," she said firmly. "If we don't stop him here, there won't be another chance." Her words didn't ease Cal's nerves, but they reminded him why he'd come this far. He wasn't just fighting for himself anymore. He was fighting for something bigger, even if he still struggled to fully understand it. Their plan was risky, bordering on suicidal. While Syra prepared to launch a diversionary assault on the outer defenses, Cal would infiltrate the warship disguised as a defector. His role was simple yet terrifying. Sabotage the core chamber from within while avoiding detection. The slightest misstep could mean capture, or worse. As Syra engaged the enemy fleet in a dazzling display of aerial combat, Cal slipped aboard the Eclipse Breaker via a maintenance hatch. The interior was cold and sterile, filled with the hum of machinery and the faint scent of ozone. Clad in stolen syndicate armor, he moved cautiously through the corridors, keeping his head down and his voice silent. Every step felt like walking on thin ice, each shadow threatening to reveal his true identity. It wasn't long before paranoia set in. Guards patrolled every corner, their weapons ready. Surveillance drones hovered silently overhead, scanning for intruders. Cal relied on quick reflexes and sheer luck to avoid them, ducking into alcoves and disabling cameras whenever possible. Despite the tension, he couldn't help but marvel at the ship's design. It was both beautiful and horrifying, a testament to the power humanity had unleashed upon the galaxy. Eventually, he reached the command deck, where Silos awaited. The man was everything Cal had imagined. Tall, imposing, and radiating charisma. His dark eyes gleamed with ambition as he addressed his crew, speaking of a new order, a universe forged in his image. But what chilled Cal most was how casually Xylos referred to him by name. "So, the scavenger has finally arrived," Xylos said, turning to face Cal as though sensing his presence despite the disguise. "I've been expecting you." For a split second, Cal froze, certain he'd been caught. Then he realized Xylos wasn't talking to him directly. Someone else had tipped him off. A traitor aboard Syra's ship, or perhaps one of the contacts they'd trusted along the way. Either way, the revelation sent a surge of anger through him. "You think you can control the core?" Cal shot back, dropping the pretense. "You have no idea what you're messing with." Xylos smirked, unfazed. "And yet here you are, drawn to it like a moth to flame. Tell me, human, are you destined to save us all, or will you burn everything instead?" Before Cal could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. Syra's attack had succeeded in breaching the outer defenses, creating chaos among the crew. Seizing the opportunity, Cal bolted toward the core chamber, dodging guards and narrowly escaping blasts of laser fire. Behind him, Silos gave chase, his laughter echoing through the halls. When Cal finally reached the chamber, he found the stolen Eclipse core suspended in a containment field, pulsing violently as if aware of his presence. It called to him, not with words, but with feelings: warmth, pain, hope, despair. For a moment, he hesitated, overwhelmed by its power. Then Silos burst in, weapon drawn. "You'll never take it from me," he snarled. What followed was a desperate struggle, two men grappling not just for control of the core, but for the fate of the galaxy itself. As Syra fought her way closer, Cal knew one thing for certain: the choices he made next would change everything. Forever. The core chamber was a storm of light and sound, the Eclipse core pulsing erratically, as if fighting against its captivity. Cal grappled with Draven Silos, their struggle mirroring the chaos around them. Every blow exchange carried not just physical weight, but the burden of opposing destinies. Silos sneered, his voice dripping with venom. "You're nothing but a pawn in a game you don't even understand," he spat, landing a punch that sent Cal stumbling backward. But Cal wasn't just a scavenger anymore. He had seen too much. felt too much to let this man destroy everything. Summoning every ounce of strength, he retaliated, driving Xylos into the edge of the containment field. Sparks erupted as the rogue leader howled in pain, momentarily stunned. Kale didn't waste the opening. Ignoring the searing heat radiating from the core, he reached out, his scared arm glowing faintly as it connected with the artifact. Memories flooded his mind. Visions of unity and destruction, of galaxies saved or consumed. The core whispered to him, offering power beyond imagination. But at a cost. You can't handle it. Xylos roared, lunging forward once more. His blade slashed through the air, narrowly missing Kale's side. Desperation fueled the rogue leader's movements, but Kale stood firm, guided by something deeper than fear or anger. It wasn't about survival anymore. It was about purpose. As Silura finally breached the chamber, battered but resolute, she saw Kale standing tall, his hand pressed firmly against the core. Golden energy surged between him and the artifact, illuminating the room like a second sun. "Kale, stop," she shouted, her voice trembling. "It'll consume you." "I know," Kale replied, his tone calm despite the turmoil within. "But it's the only way." Xylos lunged again, aiming for Kale's exposed back. Without hesitation, Syra intercepted, her blades clashing with his weapon in a flurry of sparks. Their battle was fierce and unrelenting, each strike echoing like thunder. Meanwhile, Kale focused on channeling the core's energy through himself, using it to stabilize the volatile forces threatening to tear reality apart. The strain was unbearable. Pain coursed through Kale's body, every nerve screaming in protest. Yet he pushed forward, driven by the knowledge that failure would mean annihilation. Slowly, the core's chaotic pulses began to steady, its glow shifting from violent crimson to serene blue. The energy flowing through him felt both alien and familiar, as if it had always been a part of him. With one final surge, Kale unleashed the stabilized energy outward, creating a shockwave that knocked everyone, including himself, to the ground. When the dust settled, the core lay dormant, its surface smooth and lifeless. Xylos collapsed nearby, defeated and broken, while Syra crawled toward Kale, her face etched with worry. "Are you?" she started, unable to finish the question. Kale groaned, sitting up slowly. His body ached, but he was alive, and changed. Faint traces of the core's energy still lingered within him, a reminder of what he'd endured. "I'm okay," he said hoarsely, managing a weak smile. "For now, anyway." Syra helped him to his feet, her expression softening. "You did it," she murmured. "You saved us all." Outside, the warship trembled as systems failed and alarms blared. They didn't have much time. Together, they fled the crumbling vessel, escaping aboard Syra's ship just as the Eclipse Breaker imploded in a burst of light. As they drifted among the stars, Kale stared out at the vast expanse, feeling the weight of what he'd done and what lay ahead. He wasn't sure what the future held, but one thing was certain. He wasn't alone anymore. With Silra by his side, he vowed to rebuild, not just for humanity, but for everyone who called the galaxy home. And somewhere deep inside, he knew the journey was far from over.